Oh, okay. And hi, we're here, and now everybody's gone. Hi, welcome to Wholly Unfocused, where I get to talk about whatever the heck I want to talk about on my channel. So some days we're talking about comic books, and other days we're talking about 101 Dalmatians. You never know what you're going to get on this channel. It's Saturday night. It is almost 6 o'clock, and rather than going out and stuff. I'm kind of fatigued and did not want to do that, and yet wanted to see if I couldn't shoot the stuff and talk with people. So, what better way to try and attempt that than with the live stream? So tonight on the docket loosely, I'm going to talk about what I've been reading. Kind of got a stack of books and comics that I'm going through, and maybe also talk about some Protestant neuroticism I have, or maybe it's just my own neuroses and has nothing to do with Protestantism. But yeah, we got one person viewing right now. Hope everybody who's tuning in presently, or will be tuning in, is having a decent weekend. Um, mine's been all right. I saw my family today and haven't seen them in a little bit, and I've been just trying to forget about my job, which is really difficult and stressful right now. Uh, man, It's 2 weeks to the Thanksgiving break, but I'm going to pay for it insofar as kind of the suffering endured. Uh, this supermoon, the last week was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. It did nothing. It was nothing good. Nothing good came of that. It was pretty. It looked really nice, but man, it was bad. Uh, I don't know what it is. Impulse control gone. Right. It's just a mess. I'm very glad that the week is over. So and tomorrow is Sunday, so woohoo. I don't know if you're in the comments here. Let me know how you're doing, and then we'll get kind of started on like the docket for tonight, as well as I experiment with these weird sounds that are here in this little list of assets for for StreamYard. I don't want to do the applause intense. That was really loud in my ears. I'm not doing that again. Let's see. Drum roll bongos. That's cool. We'll have to figure that out. So I have a tendency to pick up a bunch of different things at the same time in terms of reading. So I'm not necessarily looking at one text uh, at one time. I'm usually looking at two, three, four, maybe five texts at any given time. And whether that's comic books, something nonfiction, something more prose oriented, whatever it might be. Um, that's kind of the thing. So I'm going through a couple different things right now, and that's not including the myriad of comics that I've been reading digitally in the last couple weeks. I subscribed to the DC Universe Infinite subscription, which is an online comics reader. And I've read more than my $8 a month worth for it. I'll tell you that much, which is really nice. I missed doing that when I was in high school. That was one of the chief means of kind of building the background that I have of this stuff. As a kid, I was on Marvel Unlimited back in high school, which I think was $10 a month at the time, and I would do it during the breaks. And so I read through numerous runs, mostly like the 2000s works and stuff. So I kind of did that with DC again. I read a lot of Tom King's work with DC, and I have two of his texts in my stack next to me that I'll bring up tonight. But it was kind of just I probably shouldn't have been, in the downtime at work. I really didn't want to grade. I'd be reading comics, so grade a couple papers, read a couple pages, grade a couple papers, read some more pages, and eventually I just stopped grading. I wish I had images of this stuff. Maybe I can hunt them down and put them up on the screen. Let's see. DC Black Label. A lot of the stuff that I've been reading is, I don't want to call it indie, but it is coming out of the DC Black Label. It's really hard to read mainline continuity stuff. I've had my complaints about it, but I think there's some gems and some solid stuff that has come out, is coming out. I think within kind of the side publishing stuff, and maybe that's really just the thing to do anymore. One of my reservations with commentary, or with continuity, I mean, is that you know things just go on and on and on, and what goes nothing changes, and I've got a lot of reservations about that. Um, and nothing ends. There's no finality to it. However, with things like black label titles, these trades that come out that are limited run series that are out of continuity. This is really good because there is finality. There is a sense of closure to it. See if I can't save another image or two. Let's see. Bum, bum, bum. This is really enthralling to all two of you who are in here right now. Don't worry, we'll get to real content once things start kicking up. Oh, I have to share the link too to hop in if anybody wishes. Here we go. It's been a minute since I did this. There we go. So if you wish to jump in, you're welcome to, and talk about things as I go through what I'm reading this evening. There we go. Let's see. All right, I think that's enough to queue right now, and then I'll go through. So what am I reading? I'm reading, or was reading, like I said, a bunch of Tom King works out of the Black Label line. And one of those was Strange Adventures. This was the run that preceded or came right after Tom King and Mitch Gerard's Mr. Miracle. Mostly the same creative team. Evan Shaner is also on there with pencil work. Oh, there we go. That's cool. I fixed it. I did just a quick read. This was not something that I was, taking notes on. This wasn't something that I was really like super analytical about because it was, in between grading papers. This was kind of done kind of just to distract myself, almost like the way people watch, certain television shows as a distraction or in the background. Um, I don't like Strange Adventures. Uh, it is one part commentary, I think, on conflicts in the Middle East and the politics behind it, and the national perception one might have of such things. And then its second part's kind of commentary on the individuals who may leave such conflicts and stuff changed, to say the least. Adam Strange is very much a pulp adventure hero, but Tom King says, but what if he committed war crimes? And what if he did a bunch of atrocious things? And now, he's supposed to be a hero, and how does he reconcile that? Not great. Partly because I didn't know like much at all about um the Adam Strange kind of stories and continuity that he existed in previously. Um, I found it also to be very text heavy, insofar as, and not like, oh, you don't want to read words in a comic book, but Tom King has an issue where he gets really, really, really wordy sometimes, and it works certain points. But man, there was slogs and periods of time reading this particular run where I was like, all right, some of this text is not necessary. Um, Especially when you hit the flashback stuff when he's over in the other planet with his wife and doing his Adam Strange thing, which like Evan Shaner's pencils are really nice, and I really like looking at that. But um, I think that got a little too bogged down in his own text. I think Tom King gets kind of bogged down in his own like thoughts and philosophy and ponderings in this text in a way that in some of the other works that I'll talk about tonight, I don't think he does, or it's less appropriate for a text like this than it is in other places. Um, this is also a place in which what's it, Mr. Terrific is prominently featured. Again, it's an out of continuity story, but he's present through much of this. This story also technically becomes like a Justice League story by the end, um, in which the evil aliens try to attack Earth and stuff. Would I recommend Strange Adventures? I don't know. I'd have to reread it in, at my house, and I was, sitting down and actually kind of taking this in instead of more in the background. Um, Again, Mitch Gerard's pencils, I really like his artwork, and so like that's stellar. Evan Shaner's work is great, but I think there are better options for Tom King works than Strange Adventures. Um, so yeah, that was one that I read in this kind of slew of Tom King's stories. The next one that I read, let me see if I can pull that image up, is not in order, by the way. This is just in actually like digital order per se. Another one that I read, I gotta fix that again, is Danger Street. This was probably, I think, his. Mm, I gotta double check the publication. This might have been his most recent work. If not, it was the Supergirl. So Danger Street was 2022, and Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, was also 2022. So they were running conversely. I think this is the last stuff that King was doing. I don't know what he's publishing presently. Current works. What's he doing? What is he doing? I have to figure that out. I don't know. Anyway, Danger Street. Danger Street is a very interesting, like narratively, structurally not convoluted per se, but really complicated to say the least. And only until the very end, when everything kind of got wrapped up properly, was like, oh, okay, I get it. King has this narrative framing device where everything's treated as a fairy tale. And so certain characters are designated to titles such as princes or young, like squires. The ogre is the creeper. And I think that some of this narrative text also really bogs down the work. And again, much like Strange Adventures, I think that Tom King gets kind of um, mired in his own wordplay or mired in his own pontificating, much like Scott Snyder in his Batman work, if we want to go there. So that's two writers that I like that I think would also do very well in the prose world. I'd have to reread Danger Street to give it a really proper look. What's the guy's name? Fornes's pencils? I don't know his first name. I like those. They're pretty solid. And this was a lot of work with characters that I'd never read before. Again, this is an out of continuity story. Seemingly, it's Black Label, so I wouldn't treat it as continuity. Working with the New Gods, the Outsiders in some maybe older, maybe 60s kind of form. Um, and then some weird one-off characters I had no idea about, like Assassin and Manhunter. I did not know anything about until this read. Um, I like Danger Street. I think certainly it's better than Strange Adventures. I will say across the board for all of Tom King's 12-issue maxi series, I find that the steam that is had of the initial inertia of the early issues is very quickly lost by about the sixth issue, that halfway point. And I have that reservation with some of the other works we'll look at tonight. Um, but I would reread Danger Street. What I do with the digital stuff is that I'll read a work kind of on a first read, super quick, and then if I really like it, I'll go back and pick it up and trade. And so I might pick up Danger Street and trade at some point to give it a shot. There's a really nice store about half an hour south of me that does 25% off trades all the time, which is really hard to not take up at any time or take up in that offer. And you'll see in just a minute the stuff I picked up recently. I was like, man, this is dangerous. If everything's at court like 25% off, there's a lot of money is going to be and already has been spent on books. But yeah, there's Danger Street. Uh, the next one on the docket, let me get that pulled up, was one that I spent a long time reading, just because of the weight or the length of it. Let me get that saved. Nope. Can I do this? Give me a second. Here we go. So the next one was quite a bulk of reading. This was Tom King's DC Rebirth run that he did for almost 70 issues. It was, if you guys were reading comics at the time, remember unceremoniously kind of shut down, and Tom King, I think, intentionally screwed it over because of DC editorial and their shenanigans and nonsense. And so I'm talking about everybody's favorite Tom King Batman. Oh wow, Tom King's Batman. I have a lot I could say about this run, and sheesh, we have a guest. All right, here we go. We'll put this on hold. Hello, welcome. How's it going, Christian?
Hey man, it's good. I've just got a few minutes. I saw you were live, and I was up here just
Yeah,
fiddling around, and I was like, "Hey, I'll come
for
hang out
sure.
for a minute."
Welcome. It's
You're
nice to see
talking,
you.
you too, man. You're talking comics.
Yeah,
You
this is
should
this is
be.
what I do.
And I was noticing the get up. You got like the blazer, and then you like looks like possibly a homemade Superman.
This is not homemade. I bought this from
Okay.
Walmart ages ago. It's
Okay.
just super faded. It's like that. It's retro. It's vintage.
Yes, old school.
It's cool, kind of type vibes. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. Rambling about. I've read a lot in the last couple months with
Mm.
this little app. So that's been fun to kind of
With
experiment with
an
and
app,
check
like
out.
a comic book app?
Yeah, so DC has a readers app for like $8 a month. It's just about their entire catalog, anything that you'd want to read, I think, which is so much money saved. It's kind of crazy,
The
especially if you're a
digital.
fast reader.
The digital. Very strange.
Um, it's nice to use only as like a filter for what is then to be purchased, because like I've never just like if I read something I really like, I end up picking up physically. Like it's the access to something per trial per se. Um, Before then, I want to do like a reread or whatever, because I'm not going to reread any of these texts on there digitally. If I want to reread them, I'll pick them up
Yeah, because
physically.
that's part of the experience of a comic book is the tactile thing.
Yes. The other thing too is the reading, the digital reading is really difficult, especially on a phone, but even on a tablet. They have these like guided panel reads,
Mm.
um, in which you're going from panel to panel, so it's zooming in. But part of the effect, right, of any, I think, really good comic is if you can do um, some work with the panel layouts and pages, and if that's lost because you're going panel to panel reading, that's a real shame, because there's some works that are really the actual layouts make and help inform the narrative
Yeah,
quite
and
a
they're,
bit.
like, spilling over the lines too, like, that kinda like the borders sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
there's a lot of
pages.
that.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can pull something up, which will be like the next talk, but not the next one I'll talk about, but one of them I'll speak of. Let me find a decent panel. So one of the books that is really important, I guess you can say, to my like comic book reading experience was it's called Mr. Miracle, and let's see. Here we go. So this is the page layout. This is what it looks like. So this dark side is a recurring motif. This is a 9-panel grid format, which is kind of made very, what's the word? Well known by Alan Moore's Watchmen in the 80s.
Mm.
But the 9-panel grid does a lot, gives you a lot of real estate per se on a page. But if you saw the checkerboard occupation of Darkseid is across those pages, Mr. Miracle, it's a commentary on anxiety and depression in one part of it. And so Darkseid is this kind of motif of like it closes in, it consumes the page as you go. Sometimes it appears more frequently on the pages, sometimes it doesn't. And that's really lost if you're just going panel to panel reading, right? If you see how
Okay.
much real estate is consumed by this expression, right? This black page, um, that effect is lost there in a digital read.
Look what the corner fished in.
Oh boy,
Y'all
here
did
we
y'all
go.
yeah, he's this is you're like 1 degree separation from Jonathan Peugeot. Like, Jonathan tweeted at Matt this week. He said someone was asking about comics, and he's like they were talking about Matt's comic, and
Hmm.
Jonathan, like, subtweeted, "Yeah, he's on the team, and he works, and he's, I've got all his Kyrie, like, stuff."
I need to pick that stuff up. I've not read it.
Yeah,
What
I
is it?
mean,
It's also God's Dog. That's the other. That's Peugeot's book,
that's
right?
Peugeot's comic, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, he's been plucking away at lettering and coloring and stuff for them for a couple years now. That's how
No, that's cool.
I met Matt at Peugeot's conference. He'd been kind of following the corner and stuff, but he was there because it was close to where he's from,
Yeah.
and he kind of was on Peugeot, doing that work for him, and so he kind of showed up half-heartedly. I don't know how do you explain it. I'm talking about you, Matt, if you're still out there, but and we had just been on a live stream like this, like 3 weeks before, and had no idea that we were gonna like show up there, and we got to hang out, have some drinks, and do
Yeah,
things.
that's super cool. He needs to show up to my part of Florida.
That's right. Y'all are both
Yeah.
Floridians.
We can go to Brandon and go buy trades for 25% off. I'm sure that sounds like a
I mean,
great time.
that sounds like Florida code speak to me. I don't know what that means.
Trade.
Brand.
Okay, so never mind. Trade paperbacks are what we trades are what they call like the collected issues for comics. And there's a comic book store that's always selling them for 25% off, and it's a huge catalog there, like shelves
Wow.
upon shelves. It's a really cool, like kind of cozy place. It's in the sketchiest area um, of this like Florida suburb, but it's right next to this witch store, um, which I went into once, and
Ooh.
they knew darn well I didn't belong in there, and I knew darn well I didn't belong in there. It just stared at me until I left.
Yeah,
They just glared at me.
you were giving like good versus evil vibes or something.
Absolutely. Well, I had like a sign on the thing on the doors, like, if you're a Christian, you're here to talk to us about like our practices and stuff. We're just gonna tell you to leave. Like, you're not gonna change your mind and stuff. And I was
You
like, I
should
just
set
wanted
up
to see what.
a little card table outside with witchcraft is real. Change my mind.
Exactly.
Dude. I wish Matt
uh,
would pop in. Matt Krotz. Are you still out there, or did you just digitally pass by?
I think he's doing something tonight from what
Uh,
I think I can gander. Which is all right. So what's going on with you though, Christian? What's new with you? I feel like I've been not doing corner stuff for reasons, corner related reasons. Like, I don't want to touch some of the topics with a 50-foot pole, but I miss.
I'm probably the one that brought the topic.
You
So
probably did. I miss doing stuff though. I just don't always know how to contribute to some of the topics at large. So it's like, well, I guess I'll just talk about my books in my corner. So in my corner of
yeah,
the corner.
that's right. I mean, that's kind of the nice. I mean, you have to, unless you're like opening yourself up to like a stream with conversation like this, you're quote unquote in control of what
Yeah.
what you decide to consume, like you're saying, and what you decide to um, put out there. But I mean, it's just an interesting thing because like I'm actually trying to do a podcast, you could say, kind of
Yeah.
around this. I do some live streaming, some commentary, and I'm just also being a dad. Took my kids to breakfast couple of my kids to breakfast this morning at like the
Yeah.
Greasy Spoon, and
Yeah.
which the bacon was unbelievably good. I didn't even like bacon growing up, and it was just so good. But then, I mean, yeah, I've got it. Actually, I think you would like my podcast episode coming out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's with a film director.
Oh,
He
okay.
was a critic, and it's like about the multiverse, and it's kind of an indie film, but it's going to come out on Apple TV and streaming and stuff like on Tuesday. And we
That's
were doing,
cool.
so it's like this guy. I don't know if you've seen Annie Crawford or seen anybody talk about her.
I was listening to PBK's coverage. I'd like to watch that whole one. Like, I saw like one of the excerpts that he clipped of his
Yeah,
own
I did.
thing.
I had Annie on last summer during the Olympics talking about the Dionysus symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that whole cultural moment?
No, I'd have to look it up.
Like there was like it looked like the Last Supper, but it was like
Oh, yes, the Olympics thing.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. So we
I
talked
do
about
remember that.
I had her on to talk about symbolism in regards to that last year, but she pointed this guy Joseph Holmes towards me, and he's a director, writer, critic guy, and he did his own like produced or directed and wrote a short film,
Okay.
and kind of like about choice in the metaverse, and it's got all sorts of like meaning themes built in and cog sci, and he's dropping little things that you may or may not have known from this area. But like as I was coming on here, I'm like, oh, am I gonna kill my channel? And then I was like, actually, I just think Henry would like it. Like I
Yeah,
really
exactly.
like
You're
so
welcome to shill. StreamYard shills on my stream, even though I use
right,
their
yeah.
product. So
You got there's what is it? Here, yeah,
they're little. Yeah, it's like right that way.
go
Yeah,
here.
it's powered by StreamYard. I get a $25
If
referral
somebody,
fee thing if you use it per my recommendation.
yes,
Apparently.
in the comments, it's usually if it'll like automatically put it into your description.
Oh, here we go. Live stream. Oh wait, that's live stream comments. Oops, that was dumb.
They're
Hold
like
on.
they're here talking right now.
Can't
No,
use the. They should really just give me their banners to be like, here you go. You
yeah,
know, I just want obnoxious ads on my content for their product.
yeah, all that stuff. I'm coming up on 1,000 subscriptions, and if I get 1,000, I guess I'll turn on some ads. The thing I'm curious about though is can how you can decide where you want to put them, like if you only want them to be at the end, or like, I mean, the more
I
you, I don't know.
Yeah. I think you can do that to a certain degree. I know there's certain like content creators I've seen where I don't know if it's by intentionally or if it's by like algo or whatever their systems are, but they'll put a well-placed ad where it's a natural break in the content or whatever, and you're like, good on you. This is a
Yeah.
nice pause. This isn't like mid-sentence. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of am the way I've approached all this stuff, because I'm kind of like that guy in the corner, I think. But it's being that guy, you know, like, but it's okay for Paul and it's okay for Grimm, but I don't know if it's okay for Christian, you
Yeah.
know, like,
Well, you just make your own brand. We do the bring the branding thing back. Just make fake advertisements to put in that don't actually get you money.
yeah,
That's what I
until
would
they
do.
do,
I want to do
until they
that.
do. That's the thing, until they do. Like that's
Yeah.
LARPing, right? You know, it's like you could like LARP, you could like make something into existence, kind of like a podcast. You know, it's like,
LARP advertising until you've got like
yeah,
five
because if
cents
you're
coming in.
doing one and then all of a sudden somebody's like, "Oh, this guy's doing ad reads," and he's like, "Oh, we should have him do one for us," and it wasn't even real. Uh,
I would do other people's ad reads. I wouldn't. I'd want to do my own ads, keep my stuff free, but like you can hire me to do your ads. I can do that.
yeah, I mean, that's what, like, who's the guy who does all the he got famous with the Harry Potter, the kid critical thinking about J.K. Rowling. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
I don't remember his name. He was just on Rogan. Or no, he was on Chris Williamson recently, but he was on Rogan. He was on Peterson
Is
stuff.
it Piers Morgan?
No, no, he's a young dude. Like, well, I say he's probably in his 30s, and like he was doing media for this like charter school in like Philadelphia or something, and then a kid was like, well, you know how you know the kind of controversy around J.K. Rowling related to her TERF stuff,
Yeah.
and he was like getting the kid to kind of think critically and just not say, I guess, what the meme or like whatever his just general take on it was, and it went
Yeah.
viral. Like
Oh.
Elon retweeted it and like that whole thing, you
Okay.
know, that kind of thing. What was I saying about him? He reads, yeah, he'll do ad reads himself, you know, like
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So I don't know.
Okay.
Uh, but I don't know.
Gotta get those. I don't know. That'd be a neat side hustle, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. Sometimes I think like, I mean, say you keep doing this like for a year and you get good at it, like really good at
Yeah.
it. And like, uh, I'm just, I think it has to do with having like church planning in the background of my life, but also running a little band business thing that I generally have like some kind of an entrepreneurial mindset about this stuff,
Yeah.
because I just know that if you just keep doing something and and you get better at it and you try just little things, even if you're not like trying very hard, you build something and then it's like, well, what do I want to do with this? Like this, so this is all, this isn't just like the, what is the word? Ethereal,
Ephemeral.
ephemeral digital thing that I threw out there, you know, on a whim like 6 months ago. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's almost something, some body to this now. And uh so yeah, I mean, like it's just kind of interesting in these relationships that you build, like these network effects that go out and um I don't know. But then you kind of get into the, what is the purpose of this relationship? Is it like, is it based off of like transaction, or is it like a based off of like something personal,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like,
Yeah. So like as soon as you get money for your randos conversations, is it for the sake of the randos or is it for the sake of that ad
I
revenue?
already do, because like if you're a member, you get like a preview of it, you
That's
know?
right. Yeah.
So I don't know, like, uh, but I just think it's worth talking about and thinking about, instead of it being like, oh man, I really want to do this, or or I'm gonna do this, but I hope nobody notices, or I'm gonna like pretend like I don't like, oh, I'm virtuous, uh, all that
Not
kind
in for the money. It doesn't matter.
yeah, all that kind of thing, and like say you've watched some guy that's like done it with the comic book thing. I don't know, a critic or like a reviewer or whatever, and he's got this. It's like he makes money from it, and you're like, well, that would be kind of cool, and it's like,
Yeah.
but I'm not about the money, it's like, and then you're like,
You
no, this
know,
is about pure, true, and if you bring that into it, then it's not. So,
I had a taste of that when I was doing Lego writing.
that's right, that's right.
Um, I think that's really interesting that you're saying, like, is it pure? Is it true? I've never gotten paid for it, for the
Mm.
work. Nobody gets paid with the blog. However, I have had in three opportunities. I've gotten review copies of sets, to
Yeah,
provide content for, and that's really difficult.
which I just did for
Hmm?
this movie.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
I got an early screener. I got a screener.
nice, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So, well, how do you feel about that? Like, what did that feel like?
It was fun. I liked getting the stuff. The problem was, um, it started to feel like it feels like a real job when you get that, because now you're really beholden to getting this article finished. I'll pull one up. I'll do this
Yeah.
screen share.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Um, this was the one I'm more proud of, I think. Let's see. Share screen. Make sure you have two monitors. I don't have two monitors. All right, here we go.
I do laptop and then one up here.
Oops, and then I have to add to stage.
Yes.
So remove
There we
that from stage. There we go.
And here we are.
This is
Great.
Brick Nerd, so this is the other half of my life. That is my last name, so now you can find me, all four of you who are watching. Um,
Oh
anyway,
wow.
so I received the Lego
That way.
Batman Forever Batmobile.
Okay, I was gonna guess, but go ahead. Yeah, it's
Oh,
Batman.
sorry. Oops. I should have.
I actually thought it was four. I thought it was Batman and Robin, so I was wrong. But like, so it's
Mhm.
it's the Val Kilmer version, which
Yeah.
I really love because yeah, go ahead.
This was really cool to get. I
Oh, wow.
wanted to. I don't know if I'm not allowed to say anything about the behind the scenes. I signed an NDA. Okay. Regardless, I had a premise for this. I had a pitch, and I had to like earn my keep to get this set. Like I had to be like pitch something that was worthwhile to review it. But I wanted to look at H.R. Geiger's influence on the model,
Hmm.
for the Batmobile, and look at some
Is,
of those designs.
is that like, is he from Alien?
Yeah, yeah, he's the
See, I
xenomorph
can
guy.
see it. I can see it from that. Like, oh, that makes me think of Alien.
And
Cool.
then looked at the actual designer who was then put in trash. This is Barbara Ling. This is one of her concepts.
Oh, cool.
Let me see.
And the
I got to
original.
talk with the designer of the set. That was one of the
See.
things I got to do. So that's Mark Stafford. He is a long-term. He's been around for a long time with the Lego Group. He does. He's the head of the superhero design team, and I think something else. So I was a part of a round table with some of the other like Lego influencers for that.
Fun.
But
Lego
then I had to like,
influencers.
oh, what'd you say?
Lego influencers. So, this is what I'm talking about though. Like, at some point, like if you care about a hobby enough, like generally it turns into something a little bit more real, or I guess adult, or whatever you want to call it. But that's really cool. And you were, what would you say? You were acknowledged, or you were given, you were at, what am I thinking? What word? Why can't I think? Because I'm getting old. You were acknowledged isn't the right word, but you were I don't know what I'm trying to say. You were seen as somebody that would care for, you would give the right kind of care, and that you
Yeah.
were trusted that you would care for this appropriately.
Yes. And then that got me another opportunity. I will say though, I don't want to do it again. Like I don't
There
like
was a
that.
lot of pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure to churn out something. It was easier to do with that because I had a premise going off of. But But I don't know, like if that became the full-time thing, I'm already like my hobby and interest in Lego is already completely like burned out in a lot of respects. I've kind of done
Yep.
everything I wanted to do with it.
Yep.
And so I can't imagine the YouTubers online that I've encountered in person who I've had not great experiences with. I'm like, no, you know what? You probably don't like this anymore, and this is just your job. Like,
Mm.
so even something with like the corner stuff, I feel like it's as soon as I feel like if I did something that I considered like the peak, like I did it, guys. This is all I wanted to do with it. I'd be like, all right, I'm out. I'm done. I did it. Like I did it with Brick Nerd. I got to talk with more people than I ever thought I would talk to about the things that like the creators of things that were most important to me about like the hobby as a kid. And I never thought I would do that. And then I did it and I was like, what
And
else
this
is there to do?
yeah, wasn't it supposed to feel like yeah, I think there's there's to me like I guess with this idea of craft like because it can't just be about like I guess like I say it can't, but at some point it's not just about building the pieces, but like you just went through the whole artistic like the whole context of the thing.
Yeah.
The meaning, you know, you're ascribing so much meaning to that project, right? And some of it maybe it felt forced or something like that. I think like with where I'm experiencing with what I've been doing, I mean that's a great question. Like, okay, so if I talked to Jordan Peterson, you know, like and had like would I look around and be like, oh, there's nothing else to do, you know, that kind of thing or something
Yeah.
like that? Or is it like the I look at it as I don't know, and the if the real nature, and this is where I guess you get into philosophy and like telos, like what is really your like it's something that has I feel like so many times people get into these things like, oh, I'm gonna be the camera guy. We're gonna talk about cameras. I'm gonna be the studio guy. I'm gonna be the Lego guy. I'm gonna be like at some point you exhaust that whole thing. Like, and so I kind of think that yes, come in and join Christians being weird. Uh there's something about it being general and broad enough, like within this digital thing that or having multiple angles, I guess, multiple conversations worth um but I had a guy walk up to me that would maybe be able to extend it out to where you don't feel completely gassed by something and that whatever the work that's going into it like you're saying that took a lot of work there was a lot of pressure there is there a way or a frame in which you can do something and it doesn't the parts of it I don't know the levels and the amounts of work that you feel like to do or is this kind of like a is it still play is it interesting oh what's this
Yeah.
oh that's an interesting button let's push that
The
um
stuff that's more fun of that was the interview. The thing that was play was the conversation, meeting people, and the my favorite articles that I've done, the ones I'm proudest of, were when I was doing email interviews or I snagged a phone call interview with, former
yeah
creative director, and
so it's the relational side of it
it is the relational side. But that's also like a pro-felicity question of that whole like, I met Jordan Peterson, where do I go from here?
yeah
Right? It's part of that like, I don't know, it almost I don't want to say like if you did that, not that you're going to do, like if you hit that point where you're like, oh shoot, I talked to Jordan Peterson or I talked to even Pajot or somebody, you're like, okay, what now? Right? Did you just cross into that higher pro-felicity threshold? Did that put you into the new scale in which you can only go up and now you can't go back down? Do you want to
well
stay in that area?
and
Like
that's where
what
Paul
happens if you
I think that's where Paul like the genius of what Paul's been doing,
yeah.
honestly. Because like for instance, you know, like you were quote unquote you reached out to me to do a rando, right? So
Yeah.
like and then you're like, what's this dude doing talking about like what so but you reached out to me to do a rando and then it's like uh so then we have that conversation and then uh for me, you know, like say I talk to somebody else and they have some kind of like, you know, more status or whatever. like I think one of the magical moments on this journey for me was when my biggest podcast was with Benjamin Boyce,
Yeah.
who he's coming back on the channel next week. But like that was over a year ago. And then the next conversation I had was with Afrael, who was a rando. He'd come out on one of my live streams or whatever, but like, and I think that actually earned me a lot of trust, because a lot of people were like, oh, look what Baxter's doing. Right. And
Yeah.
then I turn around and I do a rando. And I think that people are, and I wonder, I mean, going to ARC and going to all that stuff, like same kind of, those are questions that I have. And I'm like testing the boundaries of that and, or at least, to whatever degree I feel like I am. And, and yeah, I think the digital people haven't really, like, there's this grind, like if it's your job too, which it's not my job. So there's a little different thing, but it's like, so I'm just thinking of a podcast, like person, Christian dude, like Ruslan or somebody, I don't know, other people that do podcasts. And you're like, everything has to be about, like, almost everything has to be about one direction growth. And I think that's where, like what Paul has done, I mean, his channel still grows. And he can have conversations with people he's interested in having conversations with, but he also, like, that's not his only thing. That's not his only point of what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And that does things not only for him as a person, but it does things for the people that he is connected to relationally, and what the kind of trust and kind of, I don't know. I look at that all very seriously, I guess. And it related to all these things that we, kind of talking about. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I gotta go here in a minute.
Yeah, I had a interesting thing, kind of like with the idea of like accessing different people in different like strata and stuff.
Mhm.
I had almost an experience with that
Yeah.
recently, like in the real world, not like
Mhm.
digitally.
Mhm.
I went to a concert for like my favorite band, and I like stuck around, and they were gonna be in the Florida area for like another day or whatever, and they had like another event that the next night, and I was like, well, I took the day off, like I shot my shot. I was like, can I like buy y'all breakfast or lunch or something since you're in
Yes.
the area? And like I got far enough as to like exchange numbers to like, maybe do this meetup, and then like I hung out in Gainesville or whatever, and I got a text like we can't do it and stuff.
Yeah.
And in my brain it was like, darn, that would have been so cool. But then on the other hand, I'm like, why am I doing that? What is the actual telos behind that? Like I kind of stepped back and I was like, maybe, and I'm thinking about it now, it's been about a month and change since I did that. And I was like, what am I getting out of that? What is the function of it? How much of it is,
It's meaning, right?
yeah, well, what was the meaning, I guess? I don't know what the meaning was behind it beyond like, oh, I got this far to do this, or like if I did this, this would be cool, but like what's the not the means to the end of it, but
Yeah. I think, first time I talked to Paul, I'd been watching stuff on here, for years. And I was like, I'm telling you, like, in a sense, having this conversation is like me, in a sense, touching, even though it was still digital, something that had existed in my head for like 7 years. And
mhm,
so, like, there is something, I mean, about embodiment, there's something about conversation, like, even like how you're saying, like, much more than just writing and doing this project. It was like the conversations that I had with these people, because they're connected to something that's meaningful to me, i.e. their music, i.e. their craft, i.e. podcasting or conversations or whatever. And so I think that there's something about, like being able to, and then even being able to tell a story, like, oh, I've got this story, like, that's not, I don't, that's, it's a little bit of a, I don't know, adventure.
yeah,
And so, and we, there's all this, kind of like, oh, we can get, like, we can think, oh, I'm just, what do I have pure motives? Like, well, probably mixed, like, probably, and so
yeah.
you just have to own both of them. But I've got to go, man. I'm gonna go
Okay.
out to dinner.
Well, that
And
was awesome. Thank you for dropping by. It was good to see you and hear
you
from you
too.
again.
You too. And sorry if I messed up your stream with my talking about
I'll just pick
stuff.
up where I left off.
All right, man. We'll talk later.
Yeah, sounds good. See ya.
All right. See you.
All right, that was Christian Baxter, everybody. That was a really cool visit, but I suppose I have to get back to talking about comic books, which is why I don't know, at least one of you maybe is here watching this. If not for the very thoughtful discussions on content creation and prophilicity and telos, we're going to go back to uh, important things like Tom King's Batman. Oh boy, here we go. I have not I don't know why I didn't look at this sooner. Um this came out when I was in like the height of my interest in comics as high school, when I was getting into it. I remember when Rebirth came out. I remember listening to people discuss the like Comic-Con panel release of all the initial titles. And then I slept on this book and I didn't pick it up until probably 2 months ago. And it's really good until the wedding issue. Actually, right before the wedding issue, it's pretty solid. And I think that for the most part, Tom King really understands Batman as a character. Uh, so the first three books or arcs, I Am Gotham, I Am Suicide, and I Am Bane, I think are the strongest parts of the run. And I Am Bane in particular has one of my new favorite moments in Batman like continuity. Like if you want a thesis for the character, and like an explanation as to why, at least for the time, Tom King understood this character, this would be it. Man, why does it keep doing that? Okay, so this is the panel. I gotta pull it up though on my screen because I can't read it from here. So at the end of the long story short, Batman goes and beats up Bane in his sovereign nation prison island because Bane took this evil supervillain guy to make him happy and strong and safe, or brave, again, because he'd been like dependent on Venom for a while, and so Bane was like struggling with rehab, and so Psycho Pirate, this villain, and his mask and his technique was supposed to help him heal him. So Batman pulls up, beats the snot out of Bane, steals Psycho Pirate from him, and then then Bane comes back, takes revenge on Batman, and then like beats up all of the other like Arkham Batman villains in Arkham Asylum to go beat up Batman. Then Batman beats up Bane and wins. And so, yeah, Batman's kind of a jerk for breaking into his sovereign nation island, Santa Prisca prison place. But there's this dialogue right at the end in which Bruce is like on the verge of death, and he's talking with his mother in the afterlife and this weird thing. And his mom says, "You did it for the mission. You did it for this. You did it for you did it for the mission. You did it for justice. You did it for these things." And Bruce says, he says, "No, I'm sorry, mother, but no, that's not right. This, Bane, what I've done, what I've suffered, it didn't have a thing to do with war or victory or dying on that plane or even you and father. The girl needed help, so I helped her. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been." And just that bit of dialogue uh, solidified in my mind, like, wow, Tom King, at least to a certain degree, really understands Batman in a way that 21st century Batman writers, I don't think, have. Because if you are familiar with comic book um, lore or mythos at all, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns really did a number on Batman as a character, for better or for worse. Dark Knight Returns reshaped the cultural consciousness of Batman to a huge degree after 60s Batman kind of, and the Silver Age really had taken him away from what people considered his true roots as an urban crime pulp detective vigilante. Um, but then Dark Knight Returns skews it into kind of this fascistic, uh, war-driven psycho man looking to just like wage war, like literal war on crime. And for a Batman comic and a writer in the 21st century to say Batman is not about primarily about the war, Batman is not primarily about the tortured vow that he makes to his parents or for his parents, Batman is primarily not about Um, a good death or getting a good death, and he's primarily about helping people is a huge deal. That is a huge deal, and I was really impressed with that ending of that run. That this is a great panel. This is a wonderful panel. Um, really good stuff. And then it gets really bad pretty quickly afterwards. Uh, right before the wedding issue, issue 50, there's a Poison Ivy issue that's a total dud. Rules of Engagement is all right. Rules of Engagement is right after Bruce proposes to Selena Kyle, and they go have to find this person that Selena's vouching for. Selena Kyle's Catwoman, by the way. Batman and Catwoman were going to get married. It didn't happen, but there's a really good exploration about whether or not Batman is happy in that run for a while. And I think unfortunately, ultimately the decision was that Batman can't be happy, and I don't like that. It makes me sad. Like Batman himself and the thing that he does is does not make him happy. And his marrying Catwoman was the road to that in some way. Um, Read Tom King's Batman up through I Am Bane if you're looking for something. It's all collected in one volume. That's presently in circulation at places like Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, regular comic book stores. It's a $50 trade, which is expensive. But I think that those three stories are really worth reading. Um, Definitely recommend those. Not really anything else from that necessarily. I would read Rules of Engagement again. I liked that one. And maybe the Super Friends like double date one with like Superman and Lois Lane. That one was all right too. So yeah, that was a huge chunk of my reading was Tom King's Batman stuff. Let's see what else was on the docket that I read, at least that I pulled up and saved digitally to look at. Nope, I think that was it. Okay, so the other two that I purchased, one of them I already showed Christian. It was Tom King's Mr. Miracle. This book was one of the few stories that I tried to read as it was coming out in single issues. This was published in 2017. I was a junior in high school, and this was kind of my Watchmen. It was a really big deal to me. It was it's really heavy stuff. But I was really determined to try and read through in its entirety in single issues as it came out. My approach to it, however, petered out by the end, and I was ultimately gave up reading it because there was no comic book stores near me, and I think at a certain point I was really confused with the direction the story had taken. Um, so, what is Mr. Miracle about? Mr. Miracle is about a super escape artist and new god, Scott Free, and Scott Free attempts to kill himself, and that is how the book opens, actually. And so much of the front half of the story is about Mr. Miracle coming to terms with his attempted suicide. And then it's also like comic book baloney stuff of like, was he infected with like the anti-life equation? Is he dead? Is he not dead? There's a lot of narrative uncertainty there. The book changes direction pretty drastically in the back half, however. Mitch Gerrard's the pencilist had just become a father during the creation of this comic, and the story very quickly turns into Scott is now a dad, and is navigating that, and I think begins to find meaning in that as well. The whole thing is for the most part a broad, I think, commentary on depression and anxiety and our mental health culture today, or at least the way certain individuals might handle it. The ending is really ambiguous. Again, like I said, is Scott dead? Is he in the main DC continuity? Where is he? And I think much like Strange Adventures, and I think much like uh, not quite Danger Street. Danger Street didn't have that issue, but the momentum I think of the early issues is really lost. Issues 1 through 4, 5 of Mr. Miracle are really special. They're really good, and I would like to. I don't know. Matt C needs to read this stuff so I can have somebody talk to about these things, instead of just talking to the internet and my screen where I see myself. I need to be able to actually have a conversation with somebody about these books. So, Matt, if you're still listening, you should read some of the stuff that I've been reading. I know that you don't read mainstream, but please This book is important. It's like 8 years in the making. I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this, and nobody has any particularly like worthwhile discussion on it on the internet. Um, Proper, thoughtful analysis of comic books is null and void on the internet. I feel like if it's not kind of the refuge is the or what's left of, you know, comic book YouTube for normies, it's I don't know what, not worth considering. But anyway, Tom King's Mr. Miracle. I would recommend this. This is really good. Trigger warnings, of course, because there's some rough stuff in there. It's really good. I think it does, however, also get bogged down sometimes in King's own pontificating. But because the protagonist is in such a strange place mentally and is in this spot in which he's considering, you know, kind of nature of life and what he's done, I think it's warranted in a way that it's not in Strange Adventures or in Danger Street. So, yeah, Mr. Miracle, go read it. I don't know. Let's see. Last one, last comic book on the docket, because I have some novels and some other books that I'm looking at as well. Um, by the way, if anybody's in the chat and wants to, you know, hop on, you're welcome to. The audience can determine whether or not we keep talking about comic books. If y'all are sick of it, you know, it's up to you. It's up to you, the viewer, to change that. It's up to you, dear viewer, to present something else you would like to speak about. But otherwise, we're going to keep going. The last Tom King books I've been on a Tom King kick, I guess, was Human Target, and I want to try and pull up an image of it. Otherwise, I'll just pull up the paperback that I have on my shelf or on my desk. Human Target. It was also a Black Label book. Human Target is about, is it Christopher Chance? Yeah, Christopher Chance, the Human Target, is going undercover as Lex Luthor to figure out if somebody's going to assassinate him. And he drinks a poisoned coffee that was meant for Lex Luthor. And now he has 12 days to live. And he also has 12 days to figure out who his killer is. This was really pretty good. Again, I think, though, by the end, it burns out. Tom King's 12-issue miniseries don't have enough momentum necessarily or inertia to carry through the midpoint. So like you get to the end, you're like, all right, that was good. But like, man, those like 7, 8, 9, 10, those issues, those get really, really difficult to read. Those are where I think a lot of the momentum is lost. But for the most part, this was really solid. This book does not have the issue that Mr. Miracle and Danger Street and Human Strange Adventures has, in which their King's characters are so bogged down in their own thoughts. There's a couple spots in where there's a lot of dialogue, but because this is a noir story, because this is a pretty hard-boiled detective archetype kind of character, it lends itself to that. Human Target's art is also wonderful. Greg Smallwood is the pencilist. Who's the colorist? It's on my cover right here. Who is it? So Greg Smallwood does the pencil work, and nope, I guess he does the colors as well. It's really great. Everything has this really cool 60s, 70s vibe. And the DC universe with all its characters here feels really timeless and kind of just this nebulous, like this is how the characters should always look. Not saying this is how they should behave. Criticism of this book include the idea that the characters are out of character. But man, oh man, does this look pretty? Man, oh man, is this artwork really great? Let me see if I can save this image because this is awesome. Not that I want every comic book to look like this, but you know, if more of this stuff that kind of takes a broader look at continuity, or more of the stuff takes a broader look at kind of the universe of a superhero, like this timeless look, sign me up for it. I'm all for it. This is really good stuff. Let's see. I don't think I'll be able to find an image, and that's annoying. Dang it. Anyway, I'm not going to give any spoilers about this book either. Not that I've given any spoilers for any of these per se, but definite recommend. Currently published, I think, in 2 volumes, which is really weird. It's also printed very differently than like a DC book. This looks like a very like published like an indie book. This doesn't look like a regular DC book, even like in its binding and stuff. You know what? Since I can't pull up art on the on the actual computer and use technology. Since I have a copy of it, I'll just show you guys pages from this. Look at that. It's the Justice League International. This becomes a Justice League International book, by the way. Ice, who is a member of that team, is the femme fatale character and technically deuteragonist, dual protagonist. She's there most of the time. Look at this. It's really good. This looks really pretty. And here's some more artwork. This is really good stuff. This is really good stuff. So I would also recommend Human Target. Again, I think the first 5, 6 issues are really strong, and then like everything else, you just gotta almost power through it. So if these were not published or intended to be 12-issue miniseries, maybe there'd be more steam and like as a whole it'd be a better experience. Like if this was 8 issues, I think a lot of these could benefit from a shorter issue run. Some of it feels a little padded out and a little bit too decompressed. So those are all the comic books I read. Yeah, there we go. We did it. We talked about all the comics and talked to Christian Baxter in an hour. Again, if you so wish to jump into the chat, see what's going on, engage, and say something, you are more than welcome to. I'll repost the link. There it is for you all. Otherwise, I'll move on to my next topic. Actually, I'm going to do a quick ad break. And by ad break, I mean there's going to be no ads. I'm just going to pull up the little banner, play some music for a second. And if somebody wants to jump into the queue in this time, go for it. I'm going to get up for just a second. All right, and we're back. So if anybody is wondering what the heck I'm drinking, this is iced coffee or like cold brew, little bit with a little bit of vodka and a little bit of Irish cream. So White Russian, is that what they call it without the Kahlua? I don't know. Anyway, moving on to the next bit of the docket, the other things that I've been reading. Again, if anybody wishes to jump in and say a thing or two, share their thoughts, hop in and participate, y'all are more than welcome to. Otherwise, we're gonna probably do this for a little bit longer. Try and at least talk about the books. Maybe not talk about Protestant neuroticism, but that'd be better discussed with somebody on stream. Um, what are we doing? Here we go. I am rereading Once and Future King. This is by T.H. White. I read this about this time last year, or at least finished it probably closer to New Year's. I really like this book. This is probably one of my favorite novels. I get into Arthurian legend kicks once in a while. There's something really appealing about these stories, and it always puts me in this kind of pensive, melancholy mood, which I don't necessarily need because I'm always usually in a pensive, melancholy mood, but puts me in a different one, you know? There's always this kind of, at least right now, this yearning for adventure and this yearning for okay, a reality that doesn't exist, because Once and Future King, I think very clearly says, like, you know, that which is gold and wonderful about Camelot and these things doesn't get to last. And that Camelot is built on a thought and a philosophy that is predicated on an attempt to fix the world by human means. That's what Arthur tries to do with that. And at least in T.H. White's, the Grail Quest then becomes an attempt to put religion into a system that didn't have its place in it, at least in this interpretation. It's very sad. This book makes me sad. There's a lot of moments that, you know, I could quote the heck out of on Goodreads or post in like I could just tweet if I had Twitter or X, sorry, about quotes about this. But it's split into 4 books. These were published separately in their initial publication. And The Sword and the Stone, which is the first section, is pretty sweet. It's very childish in so far as its adventures. If you have seen the 70s Disney adaptation of The Sword and the Stone, that is what this is. Arthur turns into a fish, then he turns into a hawk, and he turns into an ant, and he goes and hangs out with Robin Wood, not to be mistaken with Robin Hood. He goes on a lot of adventures before he becomes King Arthur of Camelot and draws the sword from the stone. And then the rest of it is the second book is covering Arthur's battle with the 9 kings. There's more than that. The different territories in England at the time who revolted against him. And then the third book is primarily about Lancelot, and that is really upsetting and breaks my heart because Lancelot is my guy. And then the last one is about the fall of Camelot and the death of Arthur, or at least White's reimagining of it. This is a pretty lengthy book. It's a brick, if you can see. There's about 650 pages. But man, is it a good read. Man, there's a lot of moments that I just kind of like to stop and pause on and think about. White's a really good writer. It's a really strong book. I really enjoy it. And I enjoyed my start to the reread. I got all of this much read and kind of in one sitting. And maybe tonight, when I'm done live streaming, I'll pick it back up and continue. I'd like to finish it in its entirety again. All right, one more book recommendation, and then I'll hang out for a little bit longer, see if anybody wants to yap here on stream. Last one I've got, and I got some others, I guess, on the shelf that I bought, but I'm not actively reading. I did buy Maps of Meaning, and I tried reading that, and that's difficult. Not as difficult as We Who Wrestle with God, but you know, difficult enough. I got a Mortification of Sin by John Owen. This is actually translated by Aaron Wren, who has, you know, some dabblings here in the corner, and I thought that was really neat. I didn't realize that he had done this translation. Um, so it's a modern adaptation, and I kind of like Wren's justification for this. Says that John Owen's not a great art writer already, and that languages of the 17th century is kind of difficult to kind of unpack and process for contemporary readers. And so justification for that, and that's a decent translation. I had read most of the Mortification of Sin in its original language in printing in a digital PDF, and then wanted a physical copy. And so finding this was a nice decision. This one is tearing me a new one. This one, if we want to talk about like spiritual conviction or guilt or Protestant neuroticism, this one is what Mortification of Sin is giving me Protestant neuroticism, I think. for a lot of reasons. The thesis is kill sin or it will be killing you. And only by the Spirit can sin truly be defeated and conquered. And that is despite some practical stuff that comes up in here, also still the most vague and difficult thing to grasp as a member of the faith and angsty young adults. I want to finish it, and I need to finish it. Really is really what I need to do. Um, but yeah, this has been a difficult read, not because it's hard to read, but there's moments where it's like, yeah, I need to put the book down and like repent and think about what I've done. Um, hard read. I would recommend it, I suppose, if you're Protestant and you have not read it. I'd like to criticize the church with this book and say that like where the heck was this, growing up in the youth group, or why is this not discussed, right? Protestantism has a tradition, and that's a discussion we can have. And yet I find in the circles that I run and in the big box evangelical churches in my area, like there's nothing. It's like Jesus died, and then we have our church plant, and it's like we're missing a gap. There's just a tiny gap you're missing here. There's something there. And I think the lack of a church history, and I think the lack of at least the Protestant history and tradition, uh, makes things more difficult, because now you find yourself in like an ahistorical biblicist kind of perspective, and it's really frustrating. It's been really frustrating for me. So looking at this, and I purchased the Heidelberg Catechism and the Westminster Confession just to take a skim and look at as well, kind of connecting with early Reformed Protestant texts and traditions is nice, because I think a lot of the time it's like, well, we have Catholicism and Orthodoxy, right, which has their tradition and their history, and has withstood the test of time. But Protestantism has a tradition. It's certainly not long, like super long standing insofar as its uh length of time, and it's certainly not consistent in terms of like being one church, with schism and all that and such numerous denominations. But there's a tradition there, and it's neglected, and that's unfortunate to say the least. um but yeah, those are the books I've read and recommended. I don't think I'll talk about Protestant neuroticism on my own without some notes and better thoughts. So that'll be clickbait. So you'll get through the whole thing and you'll be like, what is he talking about? All he did was talk about Batman. What the heck? So, you know, I think I'm going to try and wrap it up. Again, if anybody wishes to jump in right now, now's the chance. Otherwise, I think I'll probably log off and read something, comics or a book. So this is it. Final call. Any takers? We'll play it. We'll play some music. We'll play some music, and if somebody wants to hop into the chat to contribute, spend their Saturday night for just a little bit on the stream, they're welcome to. Here we go. There we go. All right. Well, thank you for everybody who decided to drop in and take a listen tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Eventually, I'll hop back on a live stream. Stay tuned for other videos, and whether it's a car talk or rambling here in this chair at this desk about whatever I want to talk about. Again, hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend ahead, whatever you may do this evening or tomorrow. This has been Wholly Unfocused with Henry signing off. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.